Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re Soha. Om Tare Tu Tare.
Okay, we are all back and recording. So, welcome everyone. Good to have you here, both physically and online. Good to be with you. It's Wednesday evening, and we are nearing the end of this text, getting ready for the next one. We're going to dig into the topic of karma, chapter 10. So, let's take a look at what His Holiness has to say about karma. Now, this is one of the more complicated topics in Buddhism. It's actually said that it is more difficult to directly have a direct experience of karma than it is to have a direct experience of emptiness. Like emptiness is easier to get than karma. So this should be pretty easy, right? There's some very fundamental things. I think there's a lot of confusion around karma. And so it's so important though if we grasp the way I see karma is it's the operating system, right? If we know the operating system, well, then I know how to engage in this life more accurately. So let's see what we have to say about this. And those of you online, anytime you have a question, feel free to just unmute, give me a real easy question. So having found a precious human life, we now have a choice. Will we create the causes for suffering, or will we create the causes for happiness? If we decide to do the latter, the most urgent thing to do is to abandon the 10 non-virtues and engage in the 10 virtues, to observe karma and its effects. Doing so will bring happiness in this life and fortunate rebirths in future lives, and will establish the foundation of liberation and full awakening. Actually, apparently it's not that complicated. I think we're done. 10 things. Do these 10, don't do those 10. Happiness in this life, future rebirth, awakening. What else you want to talk about? It is incredibly both true and both challenging that as simple as that is, how difficult that is. As simple as it is, and yet how difficult it is. So the 10 non-virtues, these are the things that get most humans in trouble. Now there's lots of them, but these 10, these are the main ones. And it's not super complicated, but it gets very subtle. The question is, if it's that simple, why am I not doing it? I think it has something to do with an untrained mind. I think that might have something to do with it. I might actually think it's really important for me, if I want to, get this paycheck and do all that and have this house, that I'm going to need to work hard and I'm going to need to create this. I'm going to need to make all that happen, right? We might think that, I don't know. And we might forget that, sort of the causes for our well-being have much more to do with our motivations for why we do those things. And totally miss the real reason. And so it's so easy to forget. And it's also, I think, sometimes it's unbelievable. Yeah, I had to visit. I had some individual sessions with some people, but everything about what virtue, non-virtue. Yeah, we've got the Buddhist 10 virtue and non-virtue. I think there's something around the 10 commandments or something. I don't know. Somebody think there's these pillars of Islam. I think Aristotle talked a lot about virtue, eudaimonia, inner flourishing, well-being. These are not new concepts. They're not that complicated. And my Little League coach taught me, it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. It's that simple. But do we believe that? Or do we get caught up in, well, that house is a little nicer than this house, Boy, those skis, man. Yeah, it's gonna be pretty cool. Or, that bike. What's Aaron used to say, exactly how many is the right number of bikes to have. It's whatever you have plus one, right? And so our mind gets caught up in these pleasure-seeking things and legitimately, I'd like my child to go to a good college, I want them to be well. I mean, there's some legitimate things here. And so these desires kick in, and then our society kicks in, and then, we start forgetting that that everything in our life is a result of others, that we're connected to others, and we compare ourselves to others instead of being connected to others. That's a tricky business. How successful am I? Well, compared to who? Am I living up to my potential, comparison, or is literally everything that I'm producing because of others, and what if I just get my ego out of the way of that and stop trying to take credit, separate, compare, achieve? That's where all the struggle is, and this idea of achievement. I had a visit with someone once who was an incredibly high achiever, incredibly wealthy achiever, good human being, good life, good to be around. And was so busy trying to, live up to something, they couldn't actually recognize they've already achieved all this other stuff and appreciate it. There was no peace because there was the goal. And I think a lot of our lives like that. We work, we strive, we get. And then we work, we strive, we get. And then we work, we strive, we get. And we forget we've already got. Why can't I enjoy what I have? Why can't I appreciate what's here? And so our minds, caught up in these cycles, forget, these basic things. Khandra Rinpoche. Yeah, she's funny. She had this great talk. I think I may have posted one. She said she's about to give a big talk. They paid a bunch of money for her to go to Berkeley. I think it was up in Berkeley. Yeah. And she was saying, yeah, it's amazing, really, the whole thing of Buddhism is, why don't you learn to be kind? Yeah. Like, that'd be great, huh? But we can't be kind. So since we can't be kind to people we don't like, or how we judge people, we can't be kind to ourselves, we can't be kind. Well, now we need to elaborate all these systems on how to be kind. And then we have points on how to be kind. We have these structures on how to be kind. And then we can point all the ways, the reasons why we're not kind, and we have the antidotes to how to be kind. Now we've got a whole bunch of Buddhist teachings, and now a whole bunch of people had to fund and organize and fly me out here and all this stuff so we can spend a week on talking about, all the reasons we can't be kind and what would it be like if we could actually recognize that every other living being, is giving you life and participating in the things that we're in this, that we're connected. And it's hard. We have so much inertia. So on one level, it's simple. On a whole nother level, it's not easy. I posted a video today I watched this morning. Incredible. You should watch it. Okay, you don't should. I would encourage you to. I don't want to shit on anybody. So and it's about this nun in Tibet and her journey. And she winds up at this incredible nunnery, very remote, extremely remote, extremely I'm going to get to. And these nuns are maintaining a tradition of very particular yogic practices. And one of them had just had the whole rainbow body shrunk down, whole lights, all that. They maintain this incredible. But on her journey, as she would stop and talk to these great masters, and there's this one wild yogi lives by himself way in this remote area, beautiful lake setting. And, she gets a little session with him. And, he's looking at her, looking at them. There's a camera crew, he's just kind of looking. I'm trying to pin it exactly what he said, but, really, it's not recognizing all others as you're seeing them as your dear children, caring for them in that way. Other than that, there's not much more to say. I'm just sitting there. And they're just sitting there for a while. He's like, no, there's not much. That's it, right? And after a while, she knows how to work the system. She's a Tibetan nun. She's kind of sitting up. Is there anything else you might add? And and so he takes her out walks, and he gives some more teachings as they walk and stuff. But you just see and he's walking in snow in his bare feet, and he's like he's got the inner tumo and all. He's just clearly one of those, and just so kind, and so you hear it from him, you'll hear it from the other teachers, and that this journey is about eliminating the afflictive states that separate us, and then out of that separation, the judgments and all that. Instead of recognize everybody's kind of suffering. We all got a disease, a condition, and some of us are more afflicted than others. And the fact that I'm less afflicted does not make me better than anyone. It makes me a lot more fortunate. And because I'm more fortunate, maybe I should be more attentive to those who are less fortunate, who are more afflicted, who have more afflictions, who are more malicious, who don't know inner peace and well-being, and caring about that. When that's available, there's just not all this other work we need to do. But even to get to that state, well, now we got a whole bunch of teachings, right? Very few certainly in my growing up, even though my Little League coach taught me it's not whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. Pretty much everybody else in the world taught me you better freaking win. And, right? Buffalo Bills, sorry to bring it up, Sam. Just ouch, sorry. They had the second best team in football remember those 3 Super Bowls? 4. Isn't it going to do like a trauma thing, or is it? We got Chris here. Okay, thank you. Okay, Chris, help. you're here, we got support. So, nobody's celebrating the second best team in football for 4 years straight, right? We've got a lot of pain thinking they've lost 4 Super Bowls in a row. One of them was close, though. By the way, I was all in for the Bills each of those years. So, the culture we have isn't supporting the very morals it's teaching us simultaneously. My Little League coach, the things that we learned when we were younger and how to care. And then within those teachings in our culture, there's still an attitude of taking care of me and mine, right? People say, how you doing? Taking care of me and mine. This fierce independence, right? Separate from. And then a delusion, especially, really in our culture, the whole Western mindset is that we don't need, we pull ourselves up by the bootstrap at, this independence. Well, that goes against the grain of reality. Right? Let me know when you find something independent about you. Let me know. Good luck. And so my whole life's going around being fiercely independent. It's just not going to work. And there's going to be a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, and there's going to be a lot of judgment, and there's going to be, I'm in competition with everybody else. And there's like 8 billion others. That's a hard way to go versus being a part of 8 billion. That's a little easier path because that's how we exist. And there's every now and then somebody will put their method of yoga or their method, so where did it come from? It came from people who taught you things, right? And where's that innovation? Everything is still, everything that's coming out of my mouth is, just coming out of all the education, training people and efforts of all these people, often that lived even centuries ago. There's that understanding that we need to learn, and these teachings start to unpack reality about interdependence, about how it exists. And it's probably a good idea that my neighbor has their needs met. My kids might be safer, that there's this very way of engaging in the world that when people are healthier and well, we're doing better. And so we have all these teachings that will help us accord with reality more and then understand true causes of suffering, true causes of happiness and well-being. And karma is going to be this very important piece to it, which we'll probably not get to tonight because I've been going on a whole nother thing. But it really starts here with these 10 foundational things. And the other thing is it's not immediate. So that's where we get tripped up. I swindle somebody, I get a good result. Swindle, I get money. That's the relationship, right? But karma is much slower in that. Karma created the situation where I was trustworthy enough to swindle somebody, and somebody in their condition was, in their situation to be swindled. And all of that is arising because of previous stuff. Now I'm creating causes to not be trusted in the future, right? And so there's this delay in how this all plays out. And so it's not that obvious until we start engaging in these things. And then as we apply these 10 virtues, as we avoid the 10 non-virtues, and as this works its way through the system, these other results will appear. But I think there's some immediate ones that we tap into. So that's where I like to really focus, is that, matter of fact, I read a quote by Abraham Lincoln. Pretty good role model, I think. We just did in our mindfulness program. Yeah, today, it was today's quote. Hence, I can remember. Uh, uh, when I do good, I feel good. When I do bad, I feel bad. That's my religion. Abraham Lincoln. Doesn't sound complicated, right? But how much are we rationalizing behaviors that we wouldn't approve of so we can get what we want? Or get that annoying person away from us? Or, we have such a capacity to rationalize the behavior and do things that really are not against our own basic ethics and values. That's a little lie. Come on. Got rid of it again. Saved us 20 minutes. Just so much. And so the big struggle is always the 8 worldly concerns and these ethics and virtue and values. Worldly concerns, I want this, these, and I feel like I won't get this if I, adhere to these values, these virtues. But it's even not that simple, because that's not even on my radar, because I'm just thinking about how do I get out of the situation talking to Jimmy, because I want to talk to Jimmy. So we're so far removed just in our day-to-day from even holding the thought about Jimmy is, a real dear human being and related to me. And he's offered me an opportunity to cultivate my highest potentials. I mean, that's reality. But that's not what pops up right off the bat, right? So all these tools about mindfulness, about concentration, about these methods are always trying to get us, so that we can actually have the choice he's talking about. Because at the start, he said, now we have a choice. We have our precious human life. Now we have a choice. But I only have a choice if I'm there to make a choice. How often are you there making a conscious choice based on virtue and values? That's a hard place to get to, because, we're driven by conditioning and compulsivity and reactivity and a nervous system that might be hijacked from a whole bunch of other stuff we've done and all the things that are going on that, it's not even on my radar, as I've got stuff to do. And I think it's really important. Maybe more important than taking a little time with my daughter, or my son, or my dad. Laura and I listened to that song about, the father and son song. Someday I'm going to be like you, Dad. You guys know that one, right? Everybody knows that, apparently. His dad's always too busy for him. And then the dad finally retires, wants to spend some time with his son. His son's got no time, And I think a lot of our life's like that. So the preceding section on this text, which I skipped, was about the rare and precious life and impermanence. So if we recognize that we do have this opportunity, that we are connected, that we have this incredible opportunity, and it's limited, we don't know if we'll be here tomorrow. Wow. Now we recognize the rare and precious birth, the incredible opportunity for freedom. The medicine is here for our afflictions. And with that mentality of impermanence, of interdependence, of the preciousness of the medicine of freedom. Well, now I have a choice if I'm there to make it. So that's where he picked up in this text. Oops, I didn't share that. I just went to the text. So 1 moment. Share screen. Share screen. Oh, yeah. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I'll try to pick a faster computer next week. Okay, woo. So it's one thing to learn this stuff. It's one thing to have some knowledge of it. It's another thing to do it. And practice of training our mind is always going to be critical, because if I can't bring my attention to this present moment, I'm not there to even make a choice. I'm not even in the ball game. I'm not even in the ballpark. If I can be present here, now at least I got a shot. But I can still be present with what I'm doing and be very keen on how I can get rid of Jimmy, you know. So now I need to be present in a way that is bearing in mind the preciousness of this day, this opportunity, and at some point recognizing what I'm doing in this moment is creating my future. That's incredibly powerful. That's this understanding of karma. What has happened in the past created everything that's happening now. Horrible or joyful, whatever it is, often in between somewhere. And rather than be upset over something terrible right now, that karma is gone. It's happened. What I'm doing now is creating the future. What I'm doing now is creating. So I'm always creating my future right now. And if we recognize that, then every single day is this opportunity to plant, grow, and nurture virtue. And then that will ripen in the future. But it's not as tangible, right? So the tangible piece that I like is just how good you feel about doing good, like Abraham Lincoln said. I know when I'm doing something I don't feel good about. I may not know it in that moment, but when I think about it, I do. So, but we can, if we're attentive and present enough, be aware, and you can get the result right off the bat. And so you initially get a good result, and you get a longer term good result. And here's the problem. One of the other problems. We're never getting past this paragraph, by the way. When's the last time you let yourself feel good about something you did that was good? Or did you brush it off? What about when somebody complimented you? Did you embrace that compliment? Yeah, thank you. Or do you say, it's nothing. Anytime, no problem. So now we're in neuroscience. We're thinking about dopamine. We're thinking about releases. Thinking about reward system. Our cultures, I'm putting the book away apparently, not very geared for the reward system. That's already, it's this natural reward system about allowing yourself to feel good about the good you do. I had a doctor's appointment, and he's actually into mindfulness. And so, after our whole thing, he sits down, he wants to pick my brain, and he's working with other physicians. And, the field is pretty traumatized. Just the stuff, and he's, wanting to bring compassion activities and some skills to the other physicians. And And it was interesting. He asked me if this seemed feasible, that he could, have them spend a little time reflecting upon, like, when a client thanked them, when a client, hey, you saved my life, or you did this, and I really appreciate that. Like, reflecting back, calling to mind that, and because they've lost the reflection on all the good that they get to do, right? The reward system. And I looked at him, I said, well, yeah, it's nice. Not going to work very well. Because there's going to be a lot of energy to go back to a time where someone thanked you, and then you have to develop an appreciation for that now and its past. I mentioned to him is, if you can teach them to feel good about that compliment then, in that moment, right? And allow from that moment to learn to say thank you and feel good about what you did for that client and their appreciation, and allow that release. Now there's a reward of the good I'm doing, very good. And then when they reflect, they have something to reflect on that's actually tangible, visceral, in a way that's more meaningful. But that's something we can be doing all the time, but it's hard to do. It's sort of antithetical, I think, to our culture. Oh, yeah, that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. When's the last time you just said thank you when I appreciated you? Yeah, it's just what you do. You're a worker bee, right? So that's, I think, one of the biggest obstacles, is we don't allow ourselves the reward, the feeling of reward, the little release, to feel good about the good we do in the moment. And then doing good just becomes a duty, not a reward. And so my encouragement is that pat yourself on the back once in a while. That when somebody, like, a lot of times it's not somebody thanking you. It's literally you did something good that you feel good about. Take some time to feel good about it. Really, wow. You don't need to go bragging about it. That's different. It's just recognizing this is meaningful. And then, well, how would you make that meaningful? Because it sounds a little self-centered, right? A little bit, maybe. What if I actually recognize that me taking care of myself and doing good, allowing myself to feel good, is going to affect a lot of other people in this world in a lot more productive way than not doing that? That you engaging in your life in this way will have a greater impact on the world. And you're really helping make a difference in the world by doing it. Because it's going to allow that access. And so it seems more self-centered actually become, the real result is it's giving, it's kind, it's connected, it's compassionate to the world.
Back you up a second. By getting some joy out of somebody thanking us, that helps us, or helps the world. How?
It helps the world because as you're able to be more joyful, as you're able to engage then in the world in a way that you are more at peace, more at joy, more things, you're going to be much more capable of doing that, of what you're giving into the world. The healthier you are, the healthier your interactions are. And I mean, it takes me way back to that first teaching that hooked me into this whole path from the Geshe said, every single thing you can be doing, you can think about this benefiting others, including taking care of ourselves, because it will. I am 10 times, well, a lot, probably more than that, more capable of benefiting others when I'm engaged in my practices in virtue. I'm just so much more capable of helping others. And when I'm not, well, I don't want to kind of avoid somebody, at the supermarket, and yeah, there's just a different way. So we are completely altering how we interact in the world the more we're capable of doing that. So let's see about this book here. So the gist that is coming up, though, is as simple as these teachings are. We can see the complications of our conditioning, the way we relate to people, the things we do. It take us away from something as simple as just doing the next kind thing, So right now we do have this rare and precious human birth. We do have these teachings. We do have this guidebook to the true cause of suffering, true cause of happiness. And right here, number 1, avoid these actions, increase these ones. Okay. I remember my teacher, Geshe Gelsen, up here. Okay, good. So now you know what to avoid and you know what to do, and you just purify the rest. So just don't do that stuff anymore. We're good. I'm like thinking he made it sound so simple. Like, we purify our minds by stop poisoning it. And we increase our luminosity with these things. So stop doing that. Do this, and then purify the karma you already have. Just do it by yourself every night. And that's what we're trying to do, right? We have a morning practice. We reflect. We set our intentions. We're mindful during the day, and we purify every night. And every day we can be just rolling through that. But it needs all that support, all that practice, all the effort, condition. I'm determined to get a paragraph in here. Since karma and its effects is a very obscure topic, traditional Lamrim texts speak of refuge at this point because knowing the qualities of the 3 jewels generates faith in the teachings. This in turn helps people to accept the teachings on karma. However, many people nowadays find the qualities of the 3 jewels to be subtle and difficult to understand, and the cause and effect approach of teachings on karma to be practical. For this reason, we will discuss karma and its effects now and the qualities of the 3 jewels when we discuss true paths and cessations. So this is a real beautiful shift just in a Western mind. Western mind, having refuge in the 3 jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, could be tough. Understanding that if I stick my hand in a fire, that's not so tough, right? Okay, so let's get to, how this works. There are many types of causality, biological, chemical, psychological, and so forth, of which the law of karma and its effects is one. Karma literally means action and refers to sentient beings. So action. And action can be a movement of the mind. That's an action. So thoughts. So any action, any movement, there's cause and effect, right? Anything, movement, we learn how there's going to be a result. So, and it refers to sentient beings, intentional, physical, verbal, and mental actions. So body, speech, and mind. Our actions matter. They not only influence others in this life, but also result in our own experiences in this and future lives. The results of our actions depend on our intentions. In that, actions done with a virtuous intention bring happy results, and those motivated by non-virtuous intentions bring unpleasant results. That's the whole basis, right? This whole thing. And so of all the action, what's going to matter most is my intention, motivation. Same action, different motivation, totally different result. Human intelligence makes us particularly qualified to discriminate between constructive and destructive, beneficial and harmful, what to practice and what to abandon. Animals do not have such discriminative wisdom. As human beings, simply surviving or seeking a healthy, happy life is not is not fully making use of our potential. We must look deeper and ask, how did this human being, me, come into existence? How can I make my life meaningful? What happens after I die? This leads us to investigate causality, both the external systems of cause and effect detailed in science and the internal system of cause and effect, the law of karma and its effects. These two systems are harmonious. And I do not find any contradiction between laws of nature, scientific findings on Darwin, evolution, and the law of karma and its effects. Okay. And when we look at this, he's just making a point. Okay, well, we can actually see things around cause and effect. Tree gets planted, seeds, sun, we get trees, right? If you want an orange tree, what kind of seed you need to plant? Orange tree seed, right? That's the thing, right? If I plant an apple seed, not going to get an orange tree, right? Well, likewise, what are the, if I want, inner peace and well-being and so forth, what am I doing to create that? Am I planting the seeds of understanding, of interdependence, to create the cause for that? Am I, if I would like to have a peaceful mind, am I taking some time to meditate, to train the mind? Or is it just going to show up one day? So you're going to see these same dynamics, and then the distinction that's going to be here around the idea of ethics. So all of that, cause, effect, all those things, is this, ethical aspect, right? Virtue and so forth. And that's harder to pin, right? Harder to pin down. And so those are something that we need to investigate for ourselves. And we always go back to taking nothing because it's written down or said so, right? We want to investigate, see how that works for ourselves. And this ethical piece, it's very simple. All happiness and good comes from virtue. All suffering from non-virtue. Does that mean I'm not going to get my leg broken? No. But it might mean that when my leg gets broken, it's not such a big deal to me, whereas it might be a big deal to someone else. Some people get pretty worked up over a cracked windshield. Other people, it's a cracked windshield. So the same events I'm going to experience differently. So when we think about our individual karma, so there's individual karma, there's group karma, there's, there's all these layers of karma, right? We're all doing a collective karma right now in our groups online and in person. And there's the karma of, the towns that we're living in, the karma of our states, karma of our country, and these things. And, and then, we all have our karmas coming together right now, right? And impacting each other, influencing each other, drawing from each other. So what's being said here is, if I'm thinking about individual karma, is how I experience the events of my life, right? I can still get hit with a baseball bat, I can still get robbed, or, all that. And so a lot of people will, think, well, if you got, molested, or you got hit with a bat, or you got robbed, or you had this traumatic thing, or whatever happened, you had it coming, karma. And that would not be a very accurate view. Imagine how much karma had to come into, someone, well, I'll just say stealing your car. Let's get a little more like that. I had my car stolen once. Anybody have your car stolen? It's weird, right? Yeah, you guys, it's not there. It's sort of a surreal moment, like it was there. Like, the whole mind, like what's not in sync here? Yeah, yeah. But how many causes had to come into being for that car to be stolen, including the car being built, the car being designed, people wanting the car, there's a demand for the car, the people who steal the car. Like, there's a lot of karmas going on for your car to get stolen. It's not all about you. But how you experience that is all about you. Right? Was it a really horrific thing? Did I feel violated? Was it, I had insurance, right? How quick did I get to solution? Just all those things are going to be very different in each person, same event. And yeah, you had some karma to have your car stolen, but it's not all your fault, right? It's not someone, does you great harm. It's not because you had it coming. It's because of all the events culturally and all the things going on in the world and all the, afflictions and, the way that other people have been raised, the culture, all of those things had to happen for that. So it's not, I had it coming. It's all these things that coming together at once. But how I'm going to rebound from that, how I'm going to experience it, how I'm going to, utilize that. That's going to be a lot about my personal stuff. Yes.
I had a former student, 6-year-old little girl who lives here, who we biked to the Carbondale Library, went into the library, and came out, bike was stolen.
Oh,
Brand new bike. She didn't cry, she didn't complain, she just shrugged her shoulders and said, "Hmm, that person must really need a bike."
Wow. Yeah. At 6 years old. Yeah. Wow. So hopefully everyone heard that in line. Just a student, 6 years old, brand new bike, came out of the library, it was stolen, and her thought was, wow, somebody must have really needed a bike. Pretty amazing. So what a different shift, right? 6 years old, I'd been off the hook crying, man. Man, it's not fair.
So John, I have a quick question.
Have you ever had a quick question?
I haven't, but I just want to say.
Okay, all right.
This one I do, because you said, this comment you said at the beginning, you said the experience of karma is harder than experiencing emptiness.
Direct realization sort of experience.
So we can actually have a direct realization.
Yeah.
Because it seems like we're experiencing it all the time.
You're experiencing, but it's kind of like the great wisdom insight to seeing the big fabric of karma and all of its manifestations, and to directly have that experience.
And so if everything we do contributes to what's going to happen next, then it does say on some level there. I know how you're going to respond to this, but on some level there's no free will, because everything that's happening is based upon what happened in the past.
Mhm.
The paradox is everything that I'm doing now creates what's next.
Which is where your free will comes in.
But the things that are ripening right now, the events I have no control over, all I can control is how I relate.
which is where your free will is.
It's kind of circular.
I don't think it's circular. So there is a guy, what's his name? He's got all the books on There Is No Free Will, all that. It's all how you define free will, essentially. He makes the argument that everything,
It's possible.
yeah, and so you don't really have free will. But when you're consciously making a choice one way or another to help someone or not help someone, I'm calling that free will. And I would say, and yeah, my little TED Talky thing's the skill of free will, is that we can cultivate more free will than we used to have. I would say that most humans have very little, if any, free will. Mostly because they're not even there to make the choice, right? So much of what we do is so habituated and on autopilot and conditioned that we are rarely conscious enough to make a conscious choice one way or another. But what I've found, my personal anecdotal experiences, I have a much greater capacity today to make a conscious choice about anything I do than I once had. And I would call that free will. The free will would be to respond consciously to whatever arises in your life in a way that you'll feel good about. And if you can do that, I think you got free will. And that's pretty hard, right? Pretty hard. So these practices, and again, when we come back to where we started the talk, was if everything's about just learning we're not so separate and to be nice to people. That's hard to do, right? Because you have to have some free will to do that. And how much free will do I have if I have all this habituated, ongoing conditioning and inertia and autopilot and so all these teachings are about establishing a free will to start consciously being more aware of my impulses and my motivations, whether they're healthy or not, and then choosing consciously to engage in the ones that are virtuous. Which is a lot of effort. There's a pep talk in here somewhere, just so you know. And that is that everything is available for you to do just that. Yeah, it's really good to have a choice in your life about how to respond or how to grow from or how to view a situation, how to shift your perspective, how to choose one thought over another. I think those are these things we get to do. Alter my attitude towards an event or a person or gain a bigger perspective instead of the emotions that just drive me into a certain state of how I see something and with very limited capacity to react in any way that's helpful. I'm just in a state of survival versus a lot more choice capacity. So we will probably pick this up next week. Let me just get to that. Yeah, so it starts with the law of karma and its effects. That's the point we are leaving off with. Anybody online have any questions, thoughts, comments? Anything except the Buddhist hot dog joke? I've heard that one too many times.
Hey, John, this is Kurt.
Yeah.
Could you, I'm trying to I'm trying to memorize the 10 virtuous actions and my brain refuses to memorize them. Can you list them real quick or?
Oh, I'm supposed to know them, huh?
That's what I was hoping.
Dalai Lama didn't point them out. How do I have to? Yeah, so there's 3, 4, and 3. That's a good way to do it. So there's 3, 4, and 3. 3 of the body, right? Don't kill, don't steal, and no sexual misconduct. Right? Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. So the virtues are going to be the opposite, right? Instead of killing, you're kind of helping with life and healing, and so forth.
Yeah.
Stealing, you get the edge. So 4 of speech. Okay, 4 of speech.
Lying.
So lie, malicious speech, right? Malicious where you're harming someone with your speech. Which, by the way, you can harm someone in a really soft voice. So you can just cut them to threads. It's not yelling. I might actually yell at someone out of some love. But I might say something kind of sharp. It's kind of sound loving. So yeah, being aware of that. Divisive speech, talking about people in ways that they would divide them. Now that one's a really tough one, especially when you think about politics and so forth. You are trying to elevate somebody over another. So you really have to be in touch with your motives there. It can be beneficial to highlight, the benefit of somebody over another. But when you divide people, and we can easily divide those people are like that. These guys, so and so, is a liar. You shouldn't trust so and so, and maybe that's a good point, right? So it might be like this person has been known to swindle people. That might be helpful, right? But so-and-so lies, or come between friends. So divisive speech, really tricky one to really get into. And the last one they call idle gossip. And that's this sort of mindless speech, speaking for the sake of speaking and idle gossipy stuff. So that's the 4. So we got 3, we got 4, now you got 3. 3 of the mind, okay? So ill will would be one of those, right? The mind of ill will. Opposite of that, of course, compassion. The other one is, I always struggle with the word covetousness. Covetousness, yeah. Apparently I don't always struggle with it. I nailed it, right? Okay, woohoo, I'm gonna let myself feel good about that. Covetousness and just jealousy kind of thing. So that would be, so it's amazing. So of the mind, ill will is hugely damaging. It's the opposite of compassion. I want someone to suffer. Ill will, that's brutal. And how much suffering comes from jealousy and covetousness, that's brutal too. And even compare it, we feel less than somebody else, And then the last one is wrong view, which encompasses, like cause and effect, that you can do anything, it really doesn't impact the world and that kind of thing. So this mundane wrong view, which kind of goes against, cause and effect that we're talking about. And then of course there's, so out of wrong view, we do a lot of things that's greatly damaging. So 3 of the body, 4 of speech, and then 3 of the mind.
Thanks, John. That helped a ton. I'd learned that before, the 3-4-3, and that I always forget that that's what the measure is. So thanks.
Yeah, it's good to break them down in categories. And I list them every day in the handout on the daily guidance we do. So they're kind of listed there. So sometimes it's nice to poke up. It's funny. I was studying Dharma for a while. I was with my teacher studying Dharma. I'd go all the time. We had study groups. We're way into Mahayana. We're into all this stuff. And then somebody'd say, well, yeah, so yeah, the Noble Eightfold Path. And I'm like going, I don't know what the like this is foundational, right? I'm like, I should probably know what the 8 are, like maybe I should go back there, and because there's so much to learn. And I thought, wow, I'd been a couple of years easy. And like, what's the Eightfold Path? Like I couldn't tell you. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go do that. So, but the 10 virtues and non-virtues, those are pretty important. Because it's where the source of it all begins.
So where does the because the 4th noble truth is that there's this eightfold path, right?
Yeah.
And so why don't they mention in the Four Noble Truths? Seems like this should be, these are the ways to cultivate merit and to reduce suffering, or these are just ways to increase virtue, not so much reduce suffering.
The Eightfold Path has this in it.
Oh, this is part of the Eightfold, this is a subset of the Eightfold Path.
Yeah, so the Eightfold Path, you're going to get into like, right livelihood. You're going to get into the
Right.
virtues. You're going to. So the Eightfold Path has three categories. We got lots of numbers. So we got Eightfold Path, but it has three categories: ethics, concentration, and wisdom. So those are the three main, we call them 3-hour trainings. So the Eightfold Path basically is all about ethics, concentration, training the mind to be present, and then the wisdom to understand this whole
So
interdependence.
the 10 virtues are somewhat folded into that.
Yeah, into the ethics portions. Yeah.
Into the ethics portion.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. So if you get into teaching, they really break down, these points of each of those. It's been ethics, concentration, wisdom. All right, let's go ahead and dedicate the merit that we have cultivated from our time together. Just taking a moment to recognize all the things we could have been doing on a Wednesday night. We're here developing our hearts and minds in ways that are meaningful, productive, being of benefit to others. And let us dedicate this merit and wisdom for the benefit of all sentient beings. May they be free of suffering. May the efforts of all those before us, ourselves and others beyond us, create conditions for all others to be free from suffering. And for our own continued spiritual growth, that we may be able to apply these lessons in ways that cut through the habits and conditioning that prevent us from our own innate goodness, the kindness that we have to give to others, and ultimately our own realization of our ultimate nature, so we can be of greatest benefit to all. And with that intention, those who care to engage in the formal dedication prayer. By this merit, may I soon attain the enlightened state of Guru Buddha, that I may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forever.
Om
All right.
do re so ha. Om do re so ha.